Hello all and welcome to Wow Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are creating the gorgeous Tunisian simple stitch. Yay! Get excited! We've been wanting to do Tunisian for such a long time now and we're finally doing it, and today's tutorial is all about the simple stitch. It's the easiest stitch, the first stitch you can learn when you are doing Tunisian. Alright, now heads up, it took me a while. And I had to take mine undone a few times because yours truly, as you know, crochets very tightly. So the trick about Tunisian is to keep your stitches looser than you would if you were to crochet normally, all right? And you need to keep stitches on your hook, almost like knitting. I like to call it baby steps to knitting, really, but that's just me. So colour combination chosen today was chosen by the lovely Rosilyn during one of our lives on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Melbourne Australia time. We have a thing called Live Antics, and one lucky subscriber on that live gets to choose the colour combination of the very next tutorial. So if you would like to be a part of that, join us on our lives at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings Melbourne Australia time. Marry that up with your country. Also, we have lives at Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. as well. But Saturday mornings is when we do our live antics. So a very special thank you to the lovely Rosilyn. Now I use about 7 grams today, so it's very minimal. This cotton is actually an 8-ply or a DK weight cotton. It's from Bendigo Woolen Mills in Victoria, Australia. But you can use any DK weight, light 3-weight cotton or 8-ply cotton that you have in stock for this. And what we're going to do is create 4 squares over the next 4 weeks, and this is the first week, and then we're going to make put them all together and make a placemat using 4 different types of Tunisian stitch and 4 different colours as well. So one lucky subscriber gets to choose the colour of each one of these squares. Rosilyn chose today, next week someone else, the week after someone else, the week after someone else, and on the 5th week, someone's going to choose the colour combination that we'll be putting the squares together with and popping a border around on our placemat. And you can use your placemat, and you can actually use something like this as a way of practicing those 4 stitches to making something a lot bigger, like blankets, scarves, clothing, whatever it is you want to make in the future. This is like a little practice for you. All right, so 8-ply DK weight 3-weight cotton. You will need your scissors. You don't need a sewing needle. We're not going to sew it in today because we're going to do a border round on it in about 4 weeks time, so you can leave your threads and they can be weaved in under the border round once we pop it on. You will need, okay, now heads up, yours truly usually uses a 4mm hook that kind of looks, you know, with the handle and everything, right? But when you're doing Tunisian crochet, your stitches stay on your hook. So I think we made 20 stitches all the way across, and we looped them on the hook all the way across. So you need kind of like a round hook, something like that. This is plastic, this is plastic, and this is a plastic, and this is your metal type. All right, so anything round that doesn't have a big handle on would be good. If you were to use something like this, your work would 20 stitches will be all bunched up in here and it wouldn't work. So you really need something like this, or you can use a proper Tunisian hook, which I'm not going to show you right now, because what I want you to do is spend the next 4 weeks creating your squares. If you find after 4 weeks that you really don't want to do Tunisian anymore, it would have been pointless you going out and purchasing a full set of Tunisian hooks or a large Tunisian hook when we're only making 4 small squares. If you find after the 4 weeks that you are loving Tunisian, then go out and purchase your hooks, yeah? But for now, just use a basic round metal or plastic hook, whatever you have in stock. Now this is an 8-ply cotton, so I'm using a 4mm hook. It's hard to see there, but it is a 4mm hook, yeah? So any 4mm hook that you have in stock that's kind of round, and if yours is a little bit longer, even better. Mine was a little bit short, and I think on the 2nd or 3rd row or 4th, I can't remember, I lost some stitches. Funnily enough, I did show you, if a few stitches come off at the end, how to pop them back on. So keep in mind that that may happen to you. Take your time if it's your first time doing Tunisian. If you've done it before, then, more power to you anyway. All right, so today's tutorial, we are creating a square. I don't know, it's roughly around 10 centimeters, 4 inches, either way, doesn't matter. Focus on the rows because that's the amount of single crochets we're going to need to pop at the end when we are putting our squares together. All right, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let you head off on your own and create the gorgeous Tunisian simple stitch, colour combination chosen by the lovely Rosilyn. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, we're going to start off by making a slip knot. Grab the tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Pass your back loop halfway over your finger, hold it there, pass the other loop all the way over. Pop your hook in and give it a gentle tug, not too tight. One thing we need to know about Tunisian is to not make your stitches too tight. If you do them too tight, your work will curl and it'll be hard to remove the stitches from your hook. All right, so we're going to start off with, let me see, we might start off with about 16 chains, okay? Well, we could go right into 20. It'll take up a lot of space on your hook. Let's go for 20. All right, so we're going to chain 1, now making sure this is already not too tight. Yarn over your hook, pull a loop through once, and there you go, that's 1 chain. Yarn over your hook, 2. Yarn over, 3. Make sure you're keeping these stitches loose. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I want to have 20 stitches at the very end of my row anyways, so what we need to do is make sure we chain 1 because the first stitch is not counted. So let's go for 1 more and that'll make 21. Normally in crochet, we would pop our hook in these loops right here and we would work along that way. But in Tunisian, it is better to use what we call the back bump of your stitch. Now these are all your stitches. The back bump is we turn our work and we find these little humps, little bumps that you see right at the top. All right, so your first one does not count. So that first one there does not count. Jump right into the second. I'll give you a close-up. The first one doesn't count. Jump right into that second back bump to stop it from blurring. I'm going to give you a close-up naturally, and that stops it from blurring. All right, so turn your work. That's your first one, and there's your second one. You pop your hook in that bump. Use your thumb or your nail just to push your back bump on the hook. Pull your loop through, and there you go. Leaving your stitches relatively loose. Not too loose where they're right up here, but a nice loose movement where your hook can move. So now what you're going to do, you're not going to pop your yarn over your hook and pull through like normal crochet. You're going to work in these back bumps all the way, just pulling up loops. So turning your work, find your little back bump right there. Give it a nudge. Pop your loop on your hook, pull it up like so, trying to keep them all the same length, hold on to it there, go into the very next back bump, doing exactly the same thing, just pulling your loop up, hold it there, yeah? Back bump straight into the next one and so on. And you're going to do this without splitting the yarn all the way across your work, all right? So it's not an easy first row, okay, but this is the most difficult row. All the other ones are very, very easy, making sure you keep them all the same length, yeah, and being careful not to, I'll show you what I don't want you to do, not to make these loops come right off your hook over here. It shouldn't, not at this stage, but maybe when you've got your 20 loops on the hook, that can happen. Oops, let's not split the yarn. And I got a little bit distracted, guys. That was the second last stitch there, popping it up. You've got one more stitch right there, and you can actually see it right there, yeah? So just grab that last back bump and pull your loop through. All right, so this is what you should have on your hook. All right, now if you did your calculations correct, because we started in the second chain from the hook, you should have 20 stitches across. How you count your stitches is you count these loops that you've made. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work back along, bring that out a bit, back along these stitches. It's called a return pass, all right? And then that will be classified as your 1 row repeat, all right? So what you're going to do is just grab your yarn, pop it over your hook, and just pull it through that very first loop on your hook, like that, yeah? Now you're going to pop a yarn over your hook, and you're going to pop it through 2 loops on your hook. So pull it through the next 2 loops, like that. Yarn over your hook, you're going to do the same thing. Pop it through the next 2 loops. So 1 and 2, like that. And do that all the way across. 2, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2. Now you might find that it's pulling. It's because we need to push that right down there and then continue. Yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2. Now I didn't pop it right down the base in the beginning because sometimes it pulls through a lot of your stitches, and I've got a knot. Give me a second. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? There you go. Come on, Mary. Here we go. Sometimes it pulls at your stitches. So yarn over, pull through 2, and then you can lose stitches, and we'll talk about that later too. Yarn over, pull through 2, push that through all the way across and keep going. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and so on, all the way across. 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you should have that look. All right, so what it gives you, the look it gives you at the moment, is a really big spaced look. So don't stress, that is normal. You haven't made any errors, okay? So normally in crochet, you would chain 1 here. You're not going to do that here. You're going to ignore that first stitch. Let's do this, that might help. There we go. You're going to ignore that first stitch, and you're going to go through the vertical bar of this loop right here, just the 1 loop, and you can see that right there. Yeah, there's a loop at the back and there's a loop in front. You're going into that front loop and you're popping your yarn over your hook and you're pulling it up like so. All right, so keep those 2 loops there. You go back over to the very next loop, pop your hook in, pull a loop through, up like so. Again, don't leave these stitches too tight or everything will start to curl. It will curl a little bit. That's the beauty of Tunisian. Pop your hook in the next bar, pull a loop through, and there you go. The vertical bar, it's called a vertical bar. So pop your hook in, pull the loop through. Hook in, pull the loop through. Making sure they are similar heights, yeah? Otherwise your tension's going to be all out of whack. And so on. That's pretty much it. I find this fairly simple. Just being wary not to rush it, because once you lose that stitch, you've got to, pick it up. Because it's better than knitting, so you don't lose the stitch completely. But once you lose it, yeah? Look at this. This is unbelievable. I keep getting knots in this yarn. Oh, it's driving me nuts. Anyway, moving right along. Keep doing that all the way across. I'm going to pop this on fast until we get to the end of the row, and off we go. All right, when you get here, you've got these last 2 bars, right? I've done that third last bar. You've got a second last bar right here. Pull a loop through like so. Now here, this is where it can get a little tiny bit tricky. You do have that vertical bar right here, and normally you would go into that. But to keep these edges nice and straight, you need to go into what I like to call mama bar. And right at the back, there's a little tiny bar, and I'll show you again. There's a smaller bar. That's your tall bar. And right at the back here is a small bar. So you're going through mama bar and little baby bar over here. That's the way I like to remember him. So you pull it through like so, and that is the way I like to go through that loop there. All right, so that is that. Now once again, I'm too close now. So that is that, and once again you should have your 20 loops across, but just be careful that you don't lose stitches. If you were to lose a stitch, now we're going to do it here on purpose so I can show you. If you were to lose, oh, this is scaring me doing it, those 2 loops, all you need to do is slowly just pop them back on. All right, just that's a heads up to show you that can happen. All right, and it's most likely to happen with this because my hook is really small and I don't have the actual Tunisian hook with me, which I do have Tunisian hooks, and I will find mine when we're doing our larger projects. But for now, we're doing a smaller piece, so we're not going to worry about it. So make sure you have the correct count. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. You can count by ones if you like. All right, so once again, oh, by the way, what we just did, that was called a forward pass. That is called a forward pass. And right now you have completed your foundation row, and this is your second row that we're doing right here. And so now you're going to pull a loop through once again, that first loop, yeah? Then yarn over your hook, pull through 2, yeah? Make sure you move your little guys up now. Yarn over 2, yarn over 2, yarn over 2. I'm going to pop this on fast, and you yarn over 2 all the way across until we get to the end, and off we go. All right, we're nearing the end of the row. I've got 2 there, and my last one is 2 like that. All right, so what you're having right now is that. All right, that is what we're going for so far. Remember, we are not chaining 1 here, and we're not working into that first bar that we see. We're actually working into the second bar because this stitch will classify as your first bar. All right, so all you're doing is going into that first bar, pull up your loop nice and tall, and off you go. And like I said, that very first starting or foundation row, that was the hardest. This is now a lot easier, but make sure you're not doing these loops too tight. Yeah, make sure you're doing them a nice size. Super easy. I'm going to pop this on fast, and off we go. All right, how'd you go, guys? I have another 1 and 2, so let's do this one here. 1. Let's do the second one. And then we have our section here. Remember I told you, let's get a close up so you can see what I'm doing. So remember how I told you, it's very simple. By the way, it is very simple to accidentally pop your hook in those top 2 loops. Don't do that. That's not what we want. We want that mama loop over here, the tall one, and right next to her, for me it's a little tight, I've done mine way too tight, and right next to her she's got baby loop. Right there we go. Pull that loop through like so, yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through the first 2. All right, and that's pretty much it. 2 all the way across. Again, yarn over 2, 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 and so on. I'm going to pop this on fast and let's get to the end of the row and off we go. And the last two, and there you go. All right, so what we're going to do now is simply that. There we go. I'm going to get you right across here. I'm going to get to the end, and once we get to the end, we're going to talk about how many more rows we will need for our square. All right, so let's just do one more of the forward pass. All right, so once again, you're not doing anything here. You're not chaining. You are just grabbing that top loop right there and pulling a loop through. Nice and tall. Loop through of the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and so on. Now being careful, making sure they're all the same height. Once again, I'm going to pop this on fast. All right, so here we are at the end of the row. That's my third last. That's my second last. And once again, we're going to pull our work to the side and have a look at the tall bar first, that vertical bar. That's the one we always go into, mama bar, and right next to it is baby bar. All right, it's a smaller bar than the front one. So you pop your loop through like so, pull a loop through just once, and then you start pulling through 2 and 2 and 2 all the way across. All right, so just keep doing that. One more time, we'll pop this on fast and off we go. All right, so we're on our second last 2 and our very last 2 like that. And once again, like I mentioned earlier, you will find that Tunisian will turn up a little bit like that. There are many ways you can fix that. The main way that I found was to do your first row forward pass and then your return pass in a 4.5mm hook, and then change to the 4. It can make your work pull out a little bit at the base, but it stops it from turning up, okay? I'm not worried about it in our case, because in our case, we're going to pop a border round on our squares, all our squares that we're creating over the next 4 weeks, all right? This is 1 square. We're going to do another 3 squares, as I mentioned in the promo. All right, so how many rows do we need to do to complete our square? I hear you ask. All right, having a careful look at your piece, and this is the way I want you to count the rows that you've done. These little vertical lines that we've been following all along, that's the count that you need to do. So that's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, and 4 rows, all right? Now, the measurement wise, we really would like your square to measure from here to here the same as from here to here. But what I'm going to do is actually do another 11 more rows. So your job is to do another 11 more rows. Meet me back here once you're done and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here I am at the end of my piece. Now, as you can see, this does tend to turn up a little bit on both sides. Not worried about that. We're going to be putting a round of single crochets around our piece. Not now. That'll be done in a different colour in about 4 weeks time once we've completed all our squares. Some of my stitching was a little bit loose on the ends. I might have done them a little bit loose, but don't worry again too much about that, because again, the single crochets will sort that out later. All right, now what we're going to do is a thing called casting off or binding off, whichever you want to call it, okay? And we're going to do, as we've been doing all along, but it's actually a slip stitch across. So you're not picking up all the loops, you're just doing one at a time. So you pop your hook in your bar like normal, pull a loop through like normal and pull it through to the loop on your hook. Don't do these stitches too tight, but pull it through to the loop on your hook, and there's your first one. All right, and you're going to continue to do that all the way across your row. Again, don't do these stitches too tight, don't leave them too loose either. Kind of keep the tension the same. And it's actually quite basic. I'm going to get a close-up for you so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so you're just popping your hook under the bar like normal, pulling the loop through and pull it through to the loop on your hook. And that is pretty much it all the way across your piece. All right, so we're almost at the end of the row. Here we go. I'm being very, very careful, as you can see, like so. It would have helped for you to count your stitches across when you did this. Forgot to mention that, but you're right there for your very last stitch. And I found that I almost forgot that second last stitch before the end. And there you've got your mama and your baby right there. Pull the loop through and pull it through to the loop on your hook like so. Pull up a loop, making sure that everything is gorgeously correct, and then you can cut your thread and pull the loop through. Alrighty guys, thank you very much for joining us today in creating the gorgeous Tunisian simple stitch. Once again, a very special thank you to the lovely Rosilyn for her colour combination in today's tutorial. Don't forget to join us on Saturday mornings live at 10 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time. And if you would like to be a part of our live antics, you can get to choose a colour combination of our very next tutorial. Very exciting. All right, so thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Mary and this is Wow Crochet Designs. Ciao for now.